Hello, welcome to part 2, looking at the 4 Russian radar cruisers at tier 10 in the game. We're doing the tech tree ships first, so we just did Nevsky, and now we're on to Petro. And Petro is probably, I think safe to say, overall, certainly the easiest of the 4 to play. Which is kind of down to how many bullshit gimmicks that pertain to survivability that it has. While it does have quite a bit less HP than Stalingrad and less than Moskva, it's very small. It sits very low in the water. It has the smallest icebreaker, or bow, sorry, above the icebreaker. And it's a little more well concealed than the other two bow tankers, Moskva and Stalingrad. It's kind of just very, very easy to play. As you can see, the railgun shell velocity now, and this is something that all these Russian cruisers really have. They all have a very very fast shell flight time. But Petro also has this improved penetration and the reload. Stalingrad has similar shell performance. Obviously, the AP hits a little harder, but the reload on Petro usually lets you get in a couple of shots before people can really effectively angle. And you might have noticed I started this game with 3 consumables of each. I am running the legendary mod. I'm not going to talk a ton about the legendary mod, but the main factors that it has are improved accuracy, improved AP damage, but then it comes at the cost of losing 1 of each consumable. And it would be a crying shame, Wargaming, if you had a captain in your game who, upon getting first blood, completely nullified the quote-unquote balance that a lot of these Russian ships have. So getting first blood basically completely removed the debuff that the legendary mod gives Petro. This is not a great spawn that I got. I would love to be on a flank spawn in Petro on this map. That's why I'm kind of just reversing here, because I'm kind of waiting to see what's kind of going to be happening so I can commit. I'm trying to wait and see where the DDs are, because I want to push the side where the DDs are, or where at least one of them is, and I'm kind of waiting to see where they are. But as you can see when I'm reversing, you also get 360-degree turrets in Petro. Now the turret traverse is pretty slow, but this is kind of another reason why Petro is so comfy to play. Like, you have decent speed, maneuverability, decent concealment. Now the concealment combined with the armor is obviously like crucial, because while Petro has 13.2 conceal now and Nevsky has 12.8, it's really more just that like the armor plus concealment is kind of lending to this incredible survivability. And the 360 turrets help you a lot when you kite. They help you a lot when you push. 360 turrets are just honestly like an incredible kind of non-statistical buff that a ship can have. And part of the reason why Petro is just straight up better than its super ship counterpart, honestly. We could talk about that a little bit more at the end of the video. But Petro is certainly the easiest of the ships to survive in overall. It is probably the hardest ship to deal with of them all, at least at closer ranges. And it lends itself the most well to pushing in of all the Russian cruisers. They can all kind of push in, but the Stalingrad does burn quite heavily. And these improved penetration angles and the extra pen on the guns really just kind of make it so that, especially when you push in against battleships, even compared to like Moskva, you're just kind of much more of a threat at any angle. And again, that bow, which is really the only meaningful way for battleships to damage you at close range, is to aim for the upper bow and get bow pens and some superstructure pens. Kind kind of like the same salvo shot in on a Petro will do significantly less damage than the exact same salvo shot in at a Moskva or a Stalingrad, and that's really just down to like the profile and the height of the bow on the size of the superstructure. And I mean, as you can see, the dispersion with the ledge mod is extremely good. And this is kind of like basic now Petro positioning. Once, like I said, I was waiting to kind of see where the ships were a little bit, and now I'm hard committing. And there's a lot of ships that hard commit. There you see the improved pen angles and the pen at this range. I mean, like any cruiser in the game really that shows even like 30 degrees, even out to max range, you're gonna pretty much citadel them. Basically any cruiser, except maybe like another Petro. But I mean, you can see the dispersion with the legendary mod. It is kind of disgusting. And I mean, you see these salvos coming in, like the size of the Petro. It's one of the only cruisers. I mean, the other Russians you can to some extent, the Moskva and Stalingrad, but like this positioning in a Des Moines, while the overall damage output would be a little superior, I would either have to be running like range mod to get the range to hit these guys, but you could never sit in this position in a Des Moines. I mean, you would just die. Salvos like this coming in, would have a very real chance to really annihilate you in the Des Moines. I'm kind of just trying to scan here. I'm trying to angle. What I want to do in this situation, because the Yoshino could get around into a position over here to HE spam me. And while Petro is extremely resilient, you do have to keep in mind that HE spammers that can pen 50 millimeters do extremely well against you. Hindenburg, Goliath, Yoshino, a lot of these cruisers do put out some fairly respectable damage to you when you're nose in. So you definitely do have to keep that in mind. And I'm a little far away from this island. You see how I'm not tucked? So I can kind of be shot from kind of a wide swath of angles here. So I'm trying to reverse, and what I ideally want to do is I want to kind of duck in like this. I'm kind of I want to eventually be a little bit more tucked. This game is still not kind of decisively won yet, and so I'm trying to get a little bit more rooted in on this island. Also, another reason rocks like this are great in the Petro. I mean, they're great in ships like Des Moines and Salem too. Any ship that plays bow in, because kind of the strategy I'm trying to employ is I want to throttle juke, right? I want to reverse and go forward, but having an island that your bow can ram on makes this significantly more effective. It just makes it a lot harder for ships to aim. And again, especially on a ship like Petro, where you really only can overmatch the bow in most battleships, where really all battleships, the bow and the superstructure, then I can go forward and ground on the rock, and then instantaneously halt my forward movement, of course. So always having these little shelf, these little like beaches and shelves in front of you is great in the Petro. And now if you see where the Yamato is positioned, he's over here. So as long as I don't reverse all the way out completely into the open, he won't have shots on me, and I'm now angled to the Stalingrad is behind the rock for me. So I really just have two ships that can shoot my bow, and then it's going to let me reverse and park on this guy. And like, Prince Eugen has relatively decent armor piercing. Like, if I were to do this in Moskva or Stalingrad, I'm actually fairly certain he could probably citadel me at 14 kilometers. But the Petro is just never going to happen. You have so much side protection for a cruiser. You have like a frankly just absurd amount of overall side protection. That's leaving aside, of course, like the spacing of it, the profile of it. But I mean, there's very few heavy cruisers that will citadel you at 15 kilometers. Moskva kind of is able to. Moskva might have enough pen. And then obviously like the super heavy type cruisers like Stalingrad can, right? You know, Alaska, Puerto Rico. But traditional heavy cruisers, tier 9 and 10, there's very, very few that can just citadel you when you're flat at a range like 15 kilometers. I mean, he got a bunch of non-pens, one overpen on the superstructure. Like, this guy is just not going to be capable of damaging me. And now that he's kind of not accessible to me, I can go forward here again. As you see with the position, I was really only hittable by the Yoshino here. And the Petro can definitely sit in the open water at medium long range and eat shit, but obviously as soon as you have any kind of island protection on even just one flank, much like with Des Moines, it's just, you're basically unkillable. Even an extremely good salvo from this Jean Wu, which is basically in Iowa, even a very well aimed salvo that hits my nose with good dispersion is like, realistically, best case scenario for him, very, very best case, is maybe like 10 to 12k. And then every, on this adrenaline rush, we're probably at a 12-second reload, 12.8. Every 12.8 seconds, I'm going to be pumping out somewhere between 5 and 10,000 damage on him, most likely. And there you see, I mean, Citadel's at 9 kilometers. You don't quite have Battleship Pen at like medium range, but it's really up there. Most battleships you can Citadel, if they have an exposed Citadel. Most of them you can Citadel around like 10 kilometers, some a little bit farther out. But this is kind of the playstyle on central positioning. Now, the playstyle on flanks, I think truly is just full send. Like, maybe wait and see where the ships are, but a lot of it is just full send playstyle. And I think kind of the biggest indictment on how, basically overpowered overall Petro is like, I'm trying to think of ships where I wouldn't run at. And, man, it's kind of hard to think of them. Something like a Hindenburg or a Goliath just permakiting you, you're not going to do well in. But when it comes to battleships, the closer you get to them, because here's the problem with battleships. If they ever, no matter what battleship they're in, and look at this dispersion too with the legendary mod at this range. I mean, it's disgusting. And it kind of makes up a lot for Petro's, admittedly pretty bad DPM. I mean, compared to something like a Des Moines, right? I mean, a Des Moines has over double the damage output, raw damage output that Petro does, but like, I'm hitting 9 out of 9 shells on this guy. Like 6k HE salvos in the Petro, which is not renowned, obviously, for its super well-performing HE. But at close range, Petro does have a similar dispersion formula to like Kremlin, Napoli, where there's a nonlinear huge step up in the dispersion ellipse curve. At kind of medium range, I believe in Petro it happens around the 11-kilometer range. We can talk about that more at the end of the video in the port with the recommended equipment upgrades, but basically the closer you are in Petro, the more the dispersion scales. Yeah, I mean, a nose-in cruiser at 13 kilometers, and we're still hitting 5 shells. Like, and this is a slim cruiser, the Prinzeugen. So I kind of just ran out here because I wanted some more damage, but you just don't really give a fuck in Petro. Brain is not required, really at all, and that it is very unique to the Russian radar cruisers that your brain is not required. If you game return in like Moskva, Stalingrad, even Nevsky, you're very prone to blowing up, and I would say in the Petro, if you turn flat to something like a Montana at say 15 kilometers. I truly put the over-under on you taking damage at under 30k. Like, they could get really lucky, but it's just the height of the citadel above the water is so low. And then any shell that hits water first won't really have the pen because you have so much side plating overall, so much side protection. But yeah, this I think I can't remember if I remember to compliment that Wichita. Obviously did extremely well. That's not an easy ship to play in an up-tiered lobby for sure. But it's just the game impact Petro can get, and I kind of said this with Nevsky about how Nevsky can get utility impact from central positioning, or it can farm damage, or it can stay alive, but it can never do all three. And Petro has a little bit more overall utility impact than, like, say, Stalingrad does, because it does get the hydro. And it's harder to kill, so it stays alive, and it can also pump out a very meaningful amount of damage from central positioning. And it's kind of just this ability of Petro to do all of the things that any of the Russian radar cruisers can do. And really, overall, it only like marginally loses out to something like Nevsky in the utility pay piggy role, and in the kite HE farm role. But we're actually going to look at 3 replays. The second one's a really quick one, and it's going to kind of highlight some of the ridiculousness of Petro when you're pushing. So let's go ahead and jump straight into that second replay. All right, we are straight into replay 2. And this is going to be a quick one, but this is a really good example of a map and a spawn that is kind of just perfect when you're in a ship like Petro. The resiliency of the ship allows you to full commit in a way that other bow-end cruisers really cannot. The play I'm about to make, you could, theoretically do in like Des Moines, Salem. And theoretically, you could maybe do it in a Moskva. But Petro's combination of virtually impossible to kill bow-in, which Des Moines, Salem don't have, and then turn flat and often get away with it, which Stalingrad and Moskva don't have, kind of makes it unique among the utility cruisers that bow push. There's really not... you're going to see in this very short amount of gameplay, I want you to think of another cruiser that could do what the Petro does here and live and impact the game. And I really just don't think there is one. I truly don't think that there is a cruiser that could do this. Like, I'm spotted early, right? And they only have, as you can see on the minimap, they only have 3 of their ships spotted. So, like, I have no idea what's here, right? Like, there could be a Montana on the flank. There could be, like, a Sub, a Summers, a Worcester on the flank. The smart play here is to wait and not commit. But this map is a Petro playground. I mean, it really is. It's a bow cruiser playground in general, but it's particularly truly a Petro playground. I'm radaring the gearing even though I don't have shots, just so my teammate can hit him. Making this crossing here, spotted by a main. If I did this in Des Moines, it's a main, like, no skill 16 shells with decent dispersion. Like, he just aims at my boat and probably takes half of it. Petro, I'm pretty confident I wouldn't get hit for more than, like, 12 to 15k. And the Sub is on the flank, so rather than my original plan, which was to take the 2 island rock, I'm going to push in. And I'm going to try to time this. So I'm going to get on this rock, and I'm taking a break here solely because this is the Worcester spamming me. He's somewhere over here. And staying spotted and just letting him farm me, even though, like, I do shatter a lot of his HE, the fires would eventually kill me. So what I'm doing here is I'm waiting for the main to shoot, okay? And keep in mind, the main has, and you can even see with my module, if you look in, or my mod, if you look in the top right, he's a 35-second reload, okay? His max adrenaline rush, assuming he was 0 HP, or like, say, 10,000 HP, would be about 30 seconds, 29 to 30 seconds. So watch when he shoots and when I pop out. So he just shot. He shot at 1642, okay? So, and I'm going to just cross, okay? Because I think that I can cross. He should have another shot ready at 1612. Roughly 1612, he should have a shot ready. Okay? So I've still got a few seconds, right? I've still got a few seconds, right? I've still got a few seconds, right? And he shot at 1612. I just mistimed it, right? I just mistimed it. But why am I not dead? Why am I still on half HP, Wargaming? Because I'm in the Petro. Moskva blows the fuck up there. Oh, now I'm flat to this Montana. Not good, not good. He's going to go behind the island, though, I think. Yeah. I'm alive because I'm in a Petro. That's it. That's all there is to it. Basically any other cruiser in the entire game dies. 16 main guns at that range. And I'm on 2/3 HP still. And we're still going, baby. We're still going. The main died. We're going. There is, Mama didn't raise no bitch. Especially when you're in the Petro. Kind of unfortunate. Ate a torp. Didn't really have to do that. So, how badly have I fucked up, right? I ate a, like, 25, 30k hit from the main that I only hit because I didn't accelerate when I should have. I was too slow. I was, like, 3 seconds too slow, so I fucked up there. I just lost 20,000 HP because I hit a gearing torp because I was being greedy and wanted to shoot all my guns on him for really no good reason. But I'm, just somehow still alive. Killed the DD. 65,000 HP in like less than a minute of fighting. And now we're almost ready to get to another like checkpoint situation here. These battleships aren't really looking at me. The two Yamatos are about to not have line of sight. If this Montana wants to back up, he could kill me, but the kind of HP it's going to cost him is going to be pretty intense. And so now I can just kind of park here again. There's 5 out of 6 shell hits for a very good hit on him. Made it to another heal. I fucked up again. I didn't angle enough to the Napoli. And then I hit him for like 15k as I die. So what was this? Was a 3-minute push, right? Because we pushed at like the 16-somethings minute mark. Killed the DD, got our team the cap, got the main killed, got the Napoli killed. Like, what other boat are you able to do this in Petro? And this is like truly the that's the game. Like this is so stupid. I'm laughing because it's funny, but like, how much? Like, I wouldn't have even died. We're second on the team with a 3 minute. Like, the only reason I'm even dead is because I made multiple errors, right? Like, that torp hit from the gearing, like, just literally didn't need to happen. So that was 13,000, and then I flooded. So like, I lost 18, 19,000 HP for no reason, greeting my last turret on him. I lost, let's look at the main hit. I lost 30,000 damage for no reason because I mistimed my acceleration out from the rock. So I lost 50,000 of the 76. Oh, and then I lost health to the Napoli because I didn't angle properly to him either. So like, how many fucking mistakes can a dumb fuck bot make in this ship and still live? And the answer is like always one more. The answer in the Petro is like you can almost always make one more mistake than any other cruiser in the game. Moskva, Stalingrad, Nevsky, these other ships we're comparing it to, any of the U.S. cruisers except Puerto Rico, the main one-shots me. That's just all there is to it. You're dead on the first mistake. And now listen, Petro can get one shot. Maybe he aimed a little high, but the Citadel is just not that big, and those things happen like all the time. The amount of times you just in the Petro are like, "Ooh, I'm in a bad position. Fuck it, go flat" to a battleship at 15, and you don't blow up, is pretty bullshit. Now, I mean, if you see my rant reviews, you know that this battleship player base does that 400,000 times in, a business day. And they never blow up either. But the point is, this is kind of like one of the only cruisers that can do it. Aside from the weird ones like Napoli, or like, Puerto Rico and Alaska with the underwater citadels. But, I mean, Petro has an above water citadel, and it's actually reasonably above the water, which kind of makes it ridiculous that you can do that. But, like, that's like the play style I do in Petro, and that play style gets you like 60 plus win rate, like, which is unfucking believable. Let's go ahead and jump into, that was a short one. We'll jump into the last replay. All right, in the last replay, another very good map for Petro. Petro is by far its best aggressively pushing a flank, in my opinion. It can middle position and such, but you're not really playing for like the overall utility usage because even with a build with only about a 20-second radar, you realistically don't really give your allies like a ton of time to react to the radar. Because of this game's spaghetti code, allies don't actually get to see people at 5 seconds like they're supposed to. It usually takes more like 10 seconds for your teammates to truly see someone with your radar. So any like heavier cruiser, they maybe get one shot off, right? Sometimes zero. Most battleships probably don't get a shot off at all. Um, so in a ship like the Moskva, I would kind of be more incentivized to position like around here. Um, shielded from this side, and then kind of angled in like this, and I would radar cover everything. Um, you just don't really have the radar duration in Petro for that to be kind of a meaningful game impact. Um, I missed this guy. The matchmaker's pretty good. The only real ships that are a problem for Petro in this lobby, obviously subs, because you do park nose in a lot, but if Marseille was on the flank I'm trying to push, which he's not, his HE pen would be problematic for me. And then the Schlieffen is actually quite hard to deal with in the Petro, because if I'm shooting at him and he outspots me, right? So if I'm able to see him, he can secondary me, and at longer range, the shells do mostly land superstructure, so he'll get a lot of pens and some fires. And then if I'm pushing him super close, and the bow is 25, so all the secondaries will pen that too. So those are kind of really like the only ships that are maybe a problem. Now, closer range, the Wisconsin's a problem because it's so accurate it can just put all 9 shells in your bow for like 20-30k, assuming he can aim. But these, quote-unquote weaknesses, like the upper bow being 25 in Petro, like, you have to keep in mind, it's only really a weakness if the guy shooting at you knows to shoot you there and can aim. And, I mean, not to be a dick, well, to be a dick, this Battleship player base is honestly overall so incredibly bad at the game that they're just not likely to hit you there. Especially when pushing, people have a very, very hard time, which is again why Petro is like so much better. I think you've probably noticed this if you play a lot of kiting cruisers. When you're kiting in your, Henry, Hindenburg, Castilla, whatever, where do you notice battleship shells land on you? Because I notice they land on me right here. They land on me between the superstructure and the stern. People in this game overall are pretty bad at properly leading. And especially when you're pushing nose in, it requires you to take an aim point that is drastically away from the boat itself. This is something that most battleship players are not really comfortable doing. It feels bad. I mean, I kind of understand why, because it does feel bad. Because it feels like I'm aiming way out here, and if he slows down, then I miss. So maybe I aim a little bit short, and if he slows down, I get superstructure. But on a ship like Petro, when it's pushing you at medium to long range, you've got to aim in front of it, because the only meaningful damage to be had is upper bow, right? So here's the Schlieffen here, and I'm spotted. So like, yeah, he instantly gets a fire. He's already done like 6,000 damage to me. This is not a fight that you're gonna win in Petro. It's just not a fight you're ever gonna win. He's already up to 10,000 damage. The fire, like I have to heal already, right? 0 skill required. Just point, control left click. So you definitely don't want to take this fight. I just got to back up a little bit. Fortunately, this guy didn't push like he should have. He has basically no threat. It's just me and Pommern. And if he had pushed, I would suffer pretty heavily here, actually. But yeah, fortunately he is not pushing, and he's also shooting AG at me, which is really, really interesting. Really, really interesting, because it either means that he doesn't take IFHE, because if you take IFHE on Schlieffen, which you should, because it lets your secondaries all pen 32, so it's kind of like just objectively what you should do on Schlieffen is take IFHE. But it cuts your fire chance in half, so him shooting HE at me is extremely interesting. But kind of back to the game in Petro, you notice I've already tanked 800,000 damage, and I've one healed, and I've only lost 8,000 HP perma, right? Open water like this, there's really just not another cruiser that would take this little damage. And now that the Schlieffen is kind of bailing, I'm able to push. And I'm trying to in Petro. I'm thinking of like the islands as connected, and this is similar to how you play Des Moines too when you're aggressively pushing. It's just easier in Petro because you're more survivable. But I'm kind of thinking of the islands as checkpoints, right? Like this is a checkpoint island. It gives me radar coverage. It gives me vision. I can shoot things. Now they're running away. So now this rock immediately becomes a checkpoint island, right? I can angle to the sub. I can angle to Wisconsin. I can focus the Schlieffen. And then as soon as the sub dies, okay, I don't even care that these guys are both here because as you can see, they're both on the same line. The only issue really is the sub because I can easily cross this at 30 degrees. I'll never take a sit. So I'm kind of waiting for two things to happen. I'm waiting for the sub to die, and our sub is surveillance ready very soon. There it is. So I'm waiting for the sub to die, and I'm waiting for Schlieffen to get maybe just like a little bit farther away, because I don't want to push him at 11 kilometers and just let the secondaries kill me for free. Um, so the sub's about to die, which is really good, but I do still need the Schlieffen to keep running. So I'm kind of incentivizing him. Nuke the island because I'm a dumb fuck. I'm kind of trying to incentivize him to keep running. You saw he was slowing down. And he's slowing down again. Like, this is a smart play that he's doing. This is exactly what he should do, is just kind of park here. That radar was just a fat finger. Don't even sweat it. But if he parked and reversed here, he would absolutely just rape me. And he's also angled to these guys, so... yeah, I mean, the only damage I've really had to repair, as you have noticed so far, is the Schlieffen's secondary damage, right? His secondary damage and his fires are basically the only thing that's damaged me. But again, still, yeah, I've had to use 2 heals, but I've only lost 12,000 HP, and now we're at 1.4 million potential tank. Like, you know, I say things like, I have to respect the Schlieffen secondaries, you know, he does farm me pretty well, which is all true, but really any other cruiser in this situation would be farmed more. Even battleships would be farmed more by this guy. So now he's running away. So now I have, and the Wisconsin's gone, so now I have another kind of checkpoint to hit, which is this island. And the overall goal, because the game is going to be won or lost at C and D cap over here. This is where all their ships are. They have 2 destroyers. We have 1 in a sub, right? The game is going to be fought in this section of the map. So I'm trying to island hop and zigzag an island hop. And I also still have a Hydra left. And I'm behind my ships. Not including my Pomeroy in the back of the map, right? But like, my Yamato's going to die for sure. Look at his HP pool. And then my Vlad is getting extremely aggressive here, which I kind of respect. But yeah, the problem is all the torp threat is here, and I'm back here. So like my Hydro, that's going to be ready in a minute 15, is fucking useless. So I'm trying to position to keep shots on the mass like as much as I can, but he's just running. So now my next kind of checkpoint is going to be this island. I want to get in like this. And keep shots on the Schlieffen. I can shoot him as I cross, sort of. And then I'm angled to Wisconsin. So you're kind of just, as long as you can isolate, as long as you're not perfectly crossfired. And again, this is down to Petro's hull and the amount of total side protection the Citadel has, which really scales heavily when you're angled. Because a ship like Stalingrad or Moskva has exposed belt for the Citadel below 200 millimeters. So even at a 45-degree angle, like, anyone who can aim is still going to Citadel the fuck out of you at 45 degrees, right? Whereas on Petro, because the side protection, we'll look at it after this replay, is so just overall thick, the overall thickness of the side protection, as soon as you angle in at like 45 degrees, which again, will allow over half of their shells to, you know, not ricochet, to arm and theoretically penetrate you, it's just the thickness of the overall side plating lets you get all of your guns on target in a situation where that would kind of be suicide in any of the other Russian radar cruisers. Because you just wouldn't have the side protection total to do that. So now we made our like another checkpoint island. The Vlad is here. What I want to do is I want to get right in on this rock so I can Hydro for him. Because he's got a Z42, he's got a Minotaur. Like, there's going to be a ton of torps being shit through this crack, almost for sure. My Marceau is almost for sure dead as well. So, we're doing like okay in this game. I mean, we're up a good amount of on HP, but I kind of have to assume our Marceau and our Vlad are gonna die here. Um, and then it's really just gonna be down to like, is the Z42 a good player and he can kind of carry his team. Um, so I want to be here to hydro all these torps. Now, I could sit here, but the only ship that really maybe has crossfire on me is if the GK push, but there's all these islands here. So like the chances that anyone can actually cross map me are basically zero. And if I can get out in the open and I can get to the next island, then I can hydro the Minotaur and I can shoot the Z on my way. And you see the GK is here, and I'm kind of flat to him, but this is just like the one cruiser you don't like really care, because I'm at 50,000 HP. Like I'm telling you, a GK flat broadside to me at 10-12 kilometers is not 50K'ing me. It's basically never gonna happen. If it does happen, that guy's got to instantly go to Vegas and put it all on fucking black, right? So I'm trying to like screen for the Vlad, and if I can get the Minotaur spotted, you see where my Wisconsin is. Like, there's nowhere the Minotaur can really be where Vlad can't shoot him or Wisconsin can't shoot him. So I'm gonna leave the cap here just because I'm trying to keep GK, the rock between me and GK. And then the Minotaur's hydroed. He was backing up to try to torp again. So with another 30 seconds, you know, if my Wisconsin has a reload booster, like he's gonna get 2 or 3 salvos off. Balanced ship. And now I've made it to this other checkpoint. So we've island hopped like 5-6 times, right? 4 or 5 times. And those are the Z's torp. So he's got at least a minute left, right, on his torp reload. And the Minotaur had to leave because Wisconsin is a threat, but then he walked right into Vlad. So pushing super aggressively like this, like, what did it cost me HP wise? Basically nothing, but it basically got my Vlad across that gap, and let us kill the Minotaur before he got traded. So the safe thing to do would be, again, to take a pause here, but I'm still spotted. So the Z hasn't gone behind the island because I've stayed spotted the whole time. So he's still in front of me, probably waiting to torp me. So if I can get to the next island and protect my side to him, then I can't get torped at all, right? I don't even have to rely on the RNG torp spread he might get. So now I made it to the next island, and that's what I meant with the Wisconsin salvo. Like 10K, 9 kilometers away, he can definitely point and click the bow. But now that Massachusetts is dead, and there's no way the Z is not torping Wisconsin. Like, it would be clinically insane for him to torp either side of my rock. So now I can make another island hop and push the Wisconsin. And you see the potential, like almost 2 million potential. And there's really nothing this guy can do because, like, he cannot angle to me. In a ship like Wisconsin, when you're kiting to Petro, and really most battleships, because of the contour of superstructures and sterns, kiting against a Petro at close range is, I'm just telling you, it's never the play. Like, accept the fact that it's going to, on this HP pool and what Wisconsin's HP pool is, he will never kill me. It will never, never, never happen. But by kiting, he's kind of ensuring that I get really good damage on him. So, like, what he needs to do is turn around and go bow in. But battleship players are kind of permakite obsessed. It's just not the play. Any ship with improved pen or really good AP will always do more damage to the stern than to the bow for the most part. And that really just comes down to the turrets protect the superstructure more on a lot of ships from the front. I'm going to get like super griefed here. The invisible rock just gobbled my whole salvo, which is kind of tragic, which could have cost me. But look at that salvo. If that was AP, I would have been pretty shit on. Not gonna lie. We're at 2 million potential. I've used all my heals, but I'm barely under half HP. I'm at like 45% HP still. And I mean, again, this guy kiting me is just, it's not it. It's not it. If he had turned around when he had the chance, he probably pretty easily could have killed me. Bow v bow. But like, I mean, there's just so much there's so much more superstructure accessible to a on a battleship that's kiting. I mean, you see how little of his superstructure, and Wisconsin has a giant superstructure, right? So it's a little more susceptible. But if he was bow in, he would at least have another turret, and also at this range, the Petro can very easily break turrets. So it's actually kind of lucky for him that he hasn't lost this rear turret yet. But I mean, any other, uh, any other nation cruiser, really this push, like, I'm only doing it in a ship like Petro for the most part. It's just, I mean, the marathon that we ran, right? Like, I went to this rock, these rocks, these rocks, this rock, this rock. What did I do? I got to this rock, and then I chased the Wisconsin into spawn. And it's a kind of game that, like, only Petro can make these plays in. And that's why, to me, again, I want to stress for how I enjoy playing the game. I think the Petro is the most fun, pretty much by a mile, of these 4 Russian radar cruisers. And that's just your ability to turn off your brain and not give a fuck and just run at people. I do think that like Moskva probably overall might have the most carry power, the most strength, but sheer fun. I think Petro kind of takes the cake for the most part. We can skip a little bit through this. There's really nothing their Z could do. His ships like kind of had a chance. They had a chance to maybe try to bring it back if the GK and the Wisconsin had immediately U-turned around and both fought me. I think they absolutely would have killed me. The Yoshino wouldn't be able to fight them at all. So really, they just have to kill Wisconsin because they would kill me for sure. Maybe trade, and then if their Wisconsin was any decent, he probably could have won them that game. But people have this habit of running from you when you push them in Petro, and then you just do more damage than when they kite, is really all there is to it. So, not like crazy base XP in these games, but and the Petro doesn't necessarily farm damage as easily as something like Des Moines, Salem, or even Moskva. But I do think it can farm more damage potentially and safely than Stalingrad or Nevsky, and that's really because like anytime one guy fucks up, you can always smash them. But this Wisconsin, like, yeesh, dude. How much damage did he do in return to me? Like 15k. Just got shit on. You can look at the damage. Like Schlieffen secondaries alone did 20k, right? But he also did fire damage. Like all the fires. So Schlieffen really did about 30,000 of this 60,000 I received. That's what I said at the start of the game is like, that is a ship that you can't just like, that one of the few ships in Petro you can't turn off your brain and rush is something like a Schlieffen. But 2.2 million potential, and I finished the game on like over 20,000 HP, which is kind of absurd. And again, this is with only 3 heals with the spec. And speaking of that, let's go back to the port and we'll take a look at the build. All right, let's go ahead and look at the equipment spec real quick. I think there's nothing weird here really at all. Main armaments, radar mod. I do like surveillance radar mod, even though the radar is short and you get less use out of it. It's just more likely to give your allies a second shot because realistically in Petro, you can get 2 shots off pretty comfortably with like basically no build to the radar at all. Aiming, of course. I don't even really know why I'm taking damage control mod. Yeah, honestly, like, don't do that. That's it's kind of pretty dumb. One thing though I recommend is if you have any legendary mods on your account, always keep doubloons as the default. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why, man. Concealment for sure. And then I run the legendary mod. Um, I actually don't think it's objectively superior. I actually think, unironically, range mod on Petro is probably overall the best. Um, it depends really on how you're building the ship. Um, the Petro has a non-linear dispersion curve. If you play Kremlin, you might have wondered why Kremlin is not allowed to take range mod. And that's not just because it's quote unquote balanced, which it's fucking not. But that's not just because it's balanced quote unquote around low firing range. The dispersion curve. Let me just kind of I'm gonna kind of like draw it down here if you want to think about it. On Petro, Kremlin, Napoli, Riga, some of these ships, the dispersion curve looks like this. Okay, I'm gonna start here. Um, you have super tight dispersion. It goes up, and then around like 10 to 12 kilometers, it just does this. It steps up and kind of continues going. So because of the spaghetti code of this game, this step up in the dispersion ellipse. Um, Actually, you know what? We can let's open up Paint. Let's open up Paint real quick, okay? Um, so on something like Petro, the dispersion looks kind of like this. Not exactly, but I'm just, and so this might happen around like say 11 km, okay? And and this is like 18.5, okay? So if you add range mod to Petro, what you do to the new dispersion curve is you bump this entire curve. So it goes like this, and then it goes like this, okay? Now, two things happen. One, you keep this laser god tier dispersion out, say to about 13 km. I can't remember the exact range, okay? And your radar, of course, is right in the middle. Your radar range is here. So when you're in the Petro and you utilize your radar, like say you get spotted and you catch them and they're in this range, when you have range mod on Petro, all of a sudden you keep the god tier pinpoint dispersion that close range Petro gets inside your radar range. And and because of the overlap in these curves, like if you were to take slices at any range, say like 15, 17, 18, whatever kilometers, at any given range mod Petro will give you like a solid 10% dispersion buff. And then obviously, of course, on top of that, you get range. So sorry for the crayon skills, but so that's kind of why range mod Petro, it improves your extended range. Also like over reload because the turret traverse penalty really hurts. Even with like I have a 33 and a third second turret traverse. And that's with grease the gears, right? So you lose the debuff. Um, I like the ledge mod a lot because it kind of enhances Petro's role in the turn off your brain and push at people role. But is it objectively the correct thing? Obviously, reload utilized with top grade gunner gives you like way significantly improved DPM. Um, but that's just how I run it. I like the ledge mod a lot. Um, I can maybe do a video on that at some point, but there's not really that much to go over. It's kind of straightforward. Hydro. And then this is the build. And with, given the fact that I am taking Legendary mod, there's kind of not an ability to really change this. The only, because you basically need Superintendent, or then you're left with 2 heals, 2 radars, which is extremely trash. Um, so kind of the wiggle room on the points, like this is the standard build for Petro, are these 3 skills. You've got to keep your engine alive, and I lose the engine a lot in Petro. Maybe it's just me, but so you could drop heavy AP, and again, this is where like the ledge mod does overall decrease your survivability. It drastically improves your close range damage output, but it does decrease your survivability. So this heavy AP and the survivability is kind of making up for the fact that I'm losing a heal with ledge mod. But if you're doing a standard Petro build with reload, I 100% think with reload Petro, top grade gunner is like objectively superior. So if I was running reload mod Petro, I would probably drop the heavy AP skill and drop the survivability expert skill, which would give you 6 points, and I would put those points into Probably top grade gunner and consumable specialist, which would give you one more point. You could just like throw it on incoming fire alert. Or if you think you never lose your engine in Petro, then you could like maybe take a little bit of AA. But you're either way, kind of how you build Petro, you're pretty much always left over with 1 or 2 points. Um, so I think for legendary mod Petro, um, this is it. Or you do this, you trade out survivability and last stand. Because man, I refuse to play this ship without grease the gears, man. It's suffering. It really is suffering. You have like close to a 40-second turret traverse on a cruiser with like a sub 14-second reload. It's suffering even with 360 turrets. So um, and then obviously in a mode like clan battles where Petra's main role is survival and tanking, the ledge mod is maybe a little bit more questionable. But so if you like the legendary mod, I think this is objectively correct, or you swap these two skills for top grade gunner. And then with a reload mod Petro, you absolutely want top grade gunner. And probably you're playing more into like utility. Um, so those are kind of like the two ways. You can run like an AA build Petro for randoms. Um, my thing with AA build Petro is in my opinion, most of the time when I take this skill, it's because I'm in a cruiser that really benefits from getting its consumables back super fast. And Petro is so tanky that, like, dude, unless I somehow get one shot by torps, I always use my heals. I mean, I'm never. It's not like a Puerto Rico or something where like you've gotta get through your heals like ASAP. Um, So that is the captain build, and let's look at the armor. We can kind of look at what I was talking about with kind of slowly going mostly angled. Is you have this outer 180, um, and if we strip that away, you have kind of this weird partially armored citadel and partially heavily armored. So like when you're totally flat and this is the target, then obviously you only have like 220 millimeter side. Now, as you can see, it is spaced. But like what I was referring to is when you push in on people and you're kind of like you're like 45 degrees, right? At 45 degrees, a lot of battleship AP will not ricochet on you. Okay, even on this, it'll roll the check for a ricochet and pass the check. But uh, if you're catching shells like angled in, which is kind of where people are trained to shoot cruisers that are angled. So let's say you're barely shooting your guns and you're showing like 35 degrees, right? And you take a hit here, you have 180 and then 120. So you have 300 millimeters of spaced armor, and of course, at a 45 degree angle, you basically almost 1.5x your armor effectiveness. So just kind of off the rip, when you're at 45 degrees, like 30 to 45 degrees, hits under here have to effectively penetrate about 450 millimeters of armor. And then that's not, of course, counting that you can see there's actually a respectable slope where the cheek is. Now, when you get more flat on Petro, that sloped armor does not hold up the whole way. As you can see, it's very flat here. But that's kind of why Petro is unique, especially among these Russian utility cruisers. When you angle in, you just have so much more protection to like Moskva. If Moskva can shoot its back guns, it's showing like 35 degrees and can get citadeled, right? If Stalin's shooting its back guns, it can get citadeled. And also, if you notice, Petro has this like little mini extra plating here, and that basically exists like almost exclusively to partially cover the non-heavily armored part of the cheek, right? Because this is heavily armored, and so the idea is if a shell passes in here, which is only 50, it still has to contend with the 170. So like it's such bullshit armor because like you can tell why that plating is there, right? It's literally just to protect the sliver of citadel that would normally, because normally the icebreaker would go like all the way to the barbette. So that's what I mean. And then when I was talking about the bow being a lower profile, Um, the Moskva is a similar size upper bow, but it's just sticks out of the water a little bit more. And then something like Stalingrad has almost double the real estate to slam. Um, so that's kind of what I mean by it. Overall, is the tankier of them when you're perfectly nose in. And then the superstructure is, as you can see, it is smaller. Um, it just doesn't have these wings on it. It's more like just the central Moskva superstructure. So that's kind of why that's like that. And then I real quick wanted to mention my brief comment about the Novosibirsk. The Novosibirsk to me is a basically just full stop inferior version of the Petro. Um, and there's a few reasons for that. Let's take a look at it real quick. I just wanted to go over this. Uh, let's just look at this real quick, okay? So you get 10,000 more hit points, okay? And you get a caliber of gun that can overmatch ultralight cruisers. You don't really get any more range, and then you get just a barely better reload, like a 1 second better reload, right? But there's a few issues. The superstructure is much bigger. The upper bow is slightly bigger, but the turrets do not 360 degree. And as you can see with the AP shell damage, it's actually on par with Legmod Petro. So Legmod Petro has basically the same AP DPM. It has a smaller hull that's harder to hit. As you can see on the Novosibirsk, the Citadel is like 50% taller, and then the ultimate grief is this 35 millimeter belt. And what number do you get when you multiply 35 by 14.3? It is less than 508. So incomparable Shikishima and Satsuma overmatch the Novosibirsk belt. And while that is only three battleships in this game, admittedly it's only three of them, if you have to push in to an incomp, a Satsuma or a Shikishima in the Novosibirsk, life sucks. Life is very bad. And this is one of them. This is one of the. So this is one. Petro and Venezia, I would say, too, are two ships where the Legmod version of the ship is just infinitely superior in basically every way to the super ship version, outside of like fringe unicorn situations. So strength-wise, Petro overall, it's certainly the best in ranked by far. By far, by far, this is the most strong of the four in ranked. Um, uh, Overall strength and randoms, I would probably put it just slightly behind Moskva. And it's just down to Moskva's like HEDPM and utility. And it is similarly almost as tanky. Um, yeah, I would say number one for fun for the way I like to play. I mean, you see how I play. I play like a retarded bot. Um, but like the fact that you could play this stupid in the Petro and win 60+% of your games, um, like if you're playing deliberately more intelligent than I am, like I'm choosing to play like a moron, right? If you intentionally play smarter, you're going to do even better in it, right? Like uh, that second game where I full sent it, like you add, if my IQ was above room temp, I wouldn't have even died in that game. We still won it, but I mean I'm just stressing the point. Like, zero brain required. This is like a 60% win rate ship, and then if you decide to utilize IQ points, it's even better. Super fun the way I like to play, and I would say top two strength wise. Petro and Moskva are probably overall, in my opinion, the two strongest overall. Uh, so I think you've might have noticed a trend, which is that with the U.S. cruisers, like the tech trees are probably overall the most carry potential strongest. Um, and again with Russians, I think like that's true. I think like the tech tree and Moskva used to be tech tree, right? So um, I think like the tech tree is oftentimes the best ship. This is similar with like the daring type destroyers. The daring is overall the best as well. Um, yeah, all right, we're gonna stop rambling. That is the Petro. Um, Super strong, fun to play when you push, very hard to deal with, great in ranked, good in CBs. Yeah, thank you for watching.